Saying yes to everyone is actually ruining your relationship. Here's why, and here's how to fix it. Welcome back to the Stella podcast, y'all. Before we begin, I want to give a quick shout out to Dinnerly. Dinnerly makes home cooking meals so easy and simple by delivering meal kits with fresh ingredients and quick, easy to follow recipes. They're also one of the most affordable meal kit services, so they are so great for both individuals, couples, and families. You can get up to $150 off through 5 orders if you're a new customer, plus free shipping. I've been enjoying the meals this past week and they are amazing, so I would definitely recommend you guys take advantage of this deal. Also, disclaimer, not sponsored, but an affiliate link will be used down below. So getting back to our topic, I know a lot of us struggle or have struggled with people pleasing. Sometimes you think you're being a good friend by being there for someone, saying yes to them, and putting aside your own schedule and needs. But in reality, you're draining yourself and sometimes even investing energy into the wrong relationships. The pressure to always be available, to always say yes, and to always be the one to step in, step up, and fix things can definitely backfire, leading to resentment, burnout, and weaker relationships. So why do we say yes to everything? A lot of the times we have a fear of disappointing others. We want to be liked by them, we don't want to cause conflict, and we just genuinely want to help out. So I'm sure most of us already kind of know that. If you don't, it's good to always be reminded. I think something we often forget is that people pleasing can actually make you a bad friend or a worse friend, and therefore do the exact opposite of what you think it's doing. Something I have noticed since becoming super aware of this in myself and really working on it, that people who are people pleasers are typically not good friends, in the sense of they just want to please everyone. So they're not really going to be a true, genuine, loyal friend to you. If they have to say no to somebody else and you're in the way of that, they're going to say yes to the other person to avoid that conflict. I was kind of friends with this girl. I was starting to kind of notice these friendship red flags. And one of the last straws for me was we went out and she ran into some girls she used to be friends with. She pulled me aside and gave me this whole story of how she didn't like these girls and how they were really mean and like not nice to her. So in my mind, I'm thinking like, okay, like this is going to be the end of the interaction. But she kept wanting to be around them. And it's true what she was saying. They were mean. One of the girls, I think, yelled at me or pushed me, or it was something where it was a very crowded space, and one of these so-called friends of hers like did something very disrespectful to me because she thought I was trying to get in her way, and I wasn't. It was just a very crowded space. And instead of standing up for me or saying anything to this girl, my friend didn't do anything. And I was kind of looking to her as like, WTF. So I ended up leaving, and she was like really apologetic after. But this is the thing, people pleasing is really just a fear of conflict and not wanting to be seen as the bad guy, and you kind of just want everyone's approval. But that's the thing, you want everyone's approval, and you can never get everyone's approval. And when it's that extreme to where someone you literally don't like and you know what's mean to you is mean to one of your friends, and you're not going to stand up for your friend, it's like there's obviously an issue here. It was still very hurtful, and I honestly I wasn't friends with this girl like much longer after that, because little things like that kept happening. Another example of this is if a friend always wants to invite their other friends on your guys' plans. Don't get me wrong, sometimes that's fine. And like things happen and it's like, oh, they also happen to be here or whatever. I've noticed in kind of people pleasing types, which I think a lot of women, a lot of girls can relate to, it's like they are scared to tell their other friend that's asking them to hang out, no, I already have plans. So instead they're like, oh, just come along. But really you're not respecting the time that we set up, the reservations we made, the plans we had to catch up. I don't want to catch up with you over personal business with someone else I don't know. These subtleties I think are such a big part of why a lot of girls feel like it's hard to make friends, or that girls are fake or whatever, because it really just comes down to these, it's not necessarily like a small thing. It's like these small occurrences are the result of a deeper lying issue where somebody is afraid of conflict, they're not straightforward, they're anxious to tell you how they really feel, they don't like saying no, they're uncomfortable. And so all these little things happen and you can't really pinpoint it. And that's not to say, like, side note, that makes someone a bad person or like a narcissist. That can definitely happen as well. But what I'm referring to is more so that lack of communication and straightforwardness, because a lot of girls, I think, do people please, and we want to be nice and we want to be accommodating. We don't want to be straightforward with another girl and feel like we're being rude or mean. But sometimes that can lead to, again, these little things happening, and it builds up, it creates resentment, and then you have a falling out over something so dumb that could have been prevented if you had just communicated earlier on. So this is why it's really important to catch yourself. It really starts with you. Early on in a friendship or any sort of relationship, whether it's dating, whether it's a work relationship, like a colleague, you know, a boss, like a family member, anyone, it's really important to set those boundaries early on so that they know you are not one to play with. That's kind of dramatic because it's not like everyone's out to get you. Again, especially in, you know, girl friendships, women friendships, I think a lot of the time, although, you know, it's so true, there are mean girls, there are narcissistic women out there, but a lot of the time, I think it just comes down to, again, a fear of conflict and not wanting to be straightforward because you don't want to feel like you're being mean. But when you can be the one to be firm in your boundaries, say what you mean in a kind way, you are actually allowing space for the other person to do that as well. And then also weeding out people who are not about that dynamic. Another friendship red flag, this isn't even a red flag, this is beyond a red flag, is when friends are weird with money and don't ever want to pay you back or always expect you to pay. I hate that. I will not be friends with someone like that. That's honestly, I think, a really good way to indicate how someone is going to be as a friend. Like if we go and get drinks or like we go and get dinner or something, they don't even offer to put their card down, they don't offer to split it, or like let's just say you put it on your card and they don't offer to send you the money like right then and there. I will not be friends with someone like that. And that's really held true because the girlies that get it, like they will send you the money right there. It's not even a question, like of course, or they will offer or whatever. And don't overcommit. That's not to say like you can't treat your friend, but there's a difference between starting a new friendship and kind of already setting up the dynamic of like you're always going to be the one to like put your card down or pay or like do the most and like everything's on you, versus like you've been friends with this person for years, you love this person, you have mutual trust and respect, and you're like, no, it's on me, babe, like don't worry about it. You know, you gotta work up to that. Someone has to earn that. And that's not to be stingy or weird, but it's just so true, especially if you are a recovering people pleaser, that you need to stop doing the most, okay? And that starts with these little boundaries, like they're not offering to put their card down. That's kind of weird. They're not offering to send you the money right then and there. That's kind of weird. They won't stick up for you in a small little situation. That's kind of weird. And overlooking these things is how you can get into a super one-sided relationship. Overlooking these things leads to you feeling alone and really let down on your birthday because you've been giving and giving all year, and you finally think, okay, my friend's gonna come through for me, and they don't. So when you start working on these things, you start just attracting less and less of those types of people and relationships, because again, anyone who is not with that, anyone who is looking to take advantage, anyone who's looking to take and take, whether that's literally financially or just energetically, if they're always talking about their own problems and never asking you about yours, if they always expect you to like come through for them but they never come through for you, it starts with these little subtleties. And again, I think because a lot of us don't want to come across as rude or mean, we, especially in the beginning of a new friendship, we are excited. We're like, I want to show this person I'm like a good friend, like yay, girly pop. So we want to be extra polite, you know, but that's actually when you have to lay down the law, and not in a mean way, not in a harsh way. But it's like sometimes we're kind of uncomfortable to tell somebody no if we don't know them that well. Can you send me half, or I'll send you half right now? But you just have to think that kind of awkward, uncomfortable moment of like asking or saying no or like setting a boundary early on is so much better than later down the line having this like super annoying falling out or like feeling super resentful or just honestly feeling really alone in a friendship because it's such a one-sided relationship and they aren't coming through for you. Like you got to catch it early on, go through those small little awkward moments early on, tell yourself this is practice. I'm uncomfortable because I'm doing something right, you know, I'm getting out of my comfort zone, and you will thank yourself later, trust me. Boundaries also strengthen friendships because it shows that you are trustworthy. People respect actions over words so much more. And I think another classic example of this is like if someone asks you to go out that night or like to make plans and you either just don't want to, or maybe you are busy, or maybe you have other plans. You know what I hate is like when a girl will write a whole paragraph and be like, oh my God, girly, and like do all these heart emojis. I would, but I'm just like, oh my God. And then this whole paragraph of like why they can't make it to somewhere. Just stop over explaining. You don't need all the extra emojis. It's gonna be fine. No one's gonna hate you if you say, no, I can't tonight. Sorry. Thanks for thinking of me. You can be classy, direct, and kind without doing all that extra BS that honestly just makes you look like, oh, like nervous and like immature. So you kind of have to reframe your mind around it too. Like you have to think of someone that you admire and respect and that's classy and that is chic and be like, okay, what would they say? Like, would they be like, oh, girly, like, I would, but like, I really just have to like do all this stuff. Oh my God, I'm so exhausted. But, like, thank you so much. Like, oh my God. I don't like that vibe either. And I think that is also why a lot of the times these girl-woman friendships will fall off because people are being a little fake in the beginning. Not in like a, oh, that person's fake way, but just like, again, we overly want to be nice and like, oh, like people please. When instead we need to be grounded, we need to be respectful, we need to be classy, we need to be genuine. And that's like real, recognize real. So if you are in that energy, you say a lot less because you're being more direct. People will respect you. And if anyone talks shit about you, it's because, which they probably won't, but it's because they don't see real, recognize real, and you're looking real unfamiliar to me right now, you know? So setting boundaries, being grounded, being firm but kind, filters out relationships that are based on guilt, people pleasing, and kind of that like, ooh, girly vibe. That's what me and my sister call it. Like if someone's acting like that, it's like a, ooh, girly, like I would, but like I really just can't, and like all these reasons why, and like I'm so, cut it out. You don't need to say all that. It's gonna be fine. And the more you stick up for yourself by honoring what it is you actually want, whether that's not to do something, not to go somewhere, sorry I can't, your subconscious, just like your true essence of self, peeps that, and you just become so much more self-assured and self-confident. So it's really this positive, you know, snowballing effect of the more you stand up for yourself, the more you respect yourself, you find it easier, you're more well-rested, you're more aligned with you and yourself. So therefore, the more you can stand up for yourself, because it just becomes more and more easy and more second nature. And then the more you're able to show up for people in a genuine way. Again, actions over words. People respect actions and people respect those who do what they say they're going to do. So this is another reason why so many people feel let down on their birthday, because this whole year, you've been doing, oh, girly, I love you so much, girly. Hey, love. Hey, girl. Hey, babe. Like, how are you? Like, oh, girly, we got to catch up over these drinks. And then because you have all these surface level friendships, no one is actually really like coming through for one another. And so when times get tough, when you are going through it, or when it's a big moment for you, no one's really going to be there because everything was always surface level. No one was ever proving to themselves through actions that like, we like each other, we respect each other, we can go through things together. And that's not to say everyone needs to be like your deepest soul connection of a friend that you share everything with. But if that's the case, if this isn't your soul level friendship, then don't be saying all this stuff and like pretending like you are and like, oh my God, bestie, when you're not. I think that's something you kind of learn as you get older. But it's like, you don't need to have the most friends. Having a small circle, not even a circle, but you know how like you'll have a friend here, you'll have a friend there. Like maybe you have a few friends you can all get together. But that like real genuine friendships where you can actually talk about your true self and feel heard and seen, that is so much more powerful and important, I think, than having all these surface level friendships, not being able to ever express yourself, feeling like this weird resentment, feeling like jealousy, feeling like no one's coming through for you on your B-day, you know? But that's the thing too, even if a girly pop is just someone you like go out with from time to time, or you just do this activity with sometimes and catch up like every few months or whatever, you can still set boundaries and like be in your own energy and like grounded, you know? So just stop with the chit chat. Again, actions over words. If this is where this person is going to be in your life, like sometimes we do this together, friend, treat them as such. Like kindness, respect, yes, but not like, oh my God, you're leaving. It's like cultivating false intimacy. It's like when you're texting a guy for like a week and you think you like, oh my God, like I like him so much. It's like, it's text. That's not a real connection. That's like nothing. So a really important tip for all of this is rewiring your brain around how you feel when you say no or when you don't want to do something. And I mentioned this in a previous podcast episode, but something that really helped me was seeing the version of me that tells somebody no and that's straightforward, seeing that version as someone that people respect, aligned, as healed, as like all these positive traits, right? Instead of looking at that as like, oh my God, if I say no, they're gonna hate me and I'm never gonna be liked by anyone, and like whatever the narrative is. Sometimes it's very subconscious, like you don't even know why it feels scary to say no. But when you can kind of start to peel back the layers, you kind of realize like, oh, I'm scared because I don't want to feel rejected. But it's like, they probably don't even care. And if they do, that's like weird. So there's that. And then also start to rewire your brain to see yourself when you are people pleasing or just kind of overextending yourself or doing oh, girly, seeing that version as like, oh, I'm people pleasing. Like you don't want to bully yourself and tear yourself down, especially when you're first starting to become aware of it and work on it. So it's not like, oh, see that part of yourself as horrible, but it's like, oh, I'm people pleasing. Like I must be feeling nervous that they're not going to like me. I'm nervous to be rejected, like this and that. Again, it, as it always comes down to, ladies, mindfulness. It really starts with those small interactions, especially in the beginning of a new friendship or a new relationship, but also just throughout the day. You know, there's usually a lot of instances where we can practice saying no, setting a boundary, or really just choosing ourselves. This is also a new tip and trick that I discovered recently. Anxiety tip and trick. So if you're having anxiety, saying no, or whatever the case may be, what I've been doing when I feel like this, you know, in any circumstance, is I will tell myself, like I'll feel it and then I'll tell myself, okay, this is just going to be an experiment. I'm going to, you know, if I'm feeling anxious, it's like, okay, I'm, as an experiment, just going to try some breathing techniques and see what happens. If you're feeling nervous to tell somebody, no, I can't make it or I can't do that, just pause and tell yourself, this is just going to be an experiment. What will happen? And I don't know why that worked so well for me, but it just kind of made my brain like, this is almost like an isolated event. We can almost see more clearly after it, you know, because when you're feeling anxious, it's like hard to see after the anxiety. So if you're doing something and it's making you nervous, it's like, okay, this is just an experiment. Like, let's see what happens if I do this. Try it out. Let me know if it works. But to me, it kind of just breaks up the anxiety and helps me feel a little bit more in control. And usually the tips and tricks, whether it's like deep breathing or like you tell somebody no and they don't say, oh my God, I hate you, like it all ends up being fine, then you're like, oh, it was fine. And when you do this over and over, it helps it to just be easier later down the line because you're building those new neural pathways that are telling your brain like this, whatever it is, this thing is not a threat. So I think that's going to be it. I would love to hear your thoughts on this subject. If you have a story time, I would love to hear your thoughts on this topic. If you have a story time about people pleasing, let me know in a comment. And don't forget to check out Dinnerly. Again, affiliate links are used down below. Thank you guys so much for watching and listening, and I will talk to you next week.